Hey guys, I never thought I'd end up posting on a subreddit like this, but here we are. I feel like my world's been flipped upside down and I don't know how to process it. I'll try to keep it clear, but forgive me if I ramble a bit. My wife, Sophia, and I have been married for 6 years. We live in New Jersey in this nice little neighborhood with a good mix of families and retired folks. It's a quiet area, the kind where you know your neighbors and everything feels safe. Or at least it used to. The past couple of months have been weird. Sophia's been acting different. She's got this weird, distant, snappy, and just overall less interested in me. It's not like we've ever been perfect. We bicker sometimes, but it's never been malicious. But recently, she's been looking at me like I'm a chore instead of her husband. It all started to click one night when I was cleaning up after dinner. Sophia had left her phone on the kitchen counter. I swear, I wasn't stooping. I'm not that guy. But it buzzed, and the notification caught my eye. It was a calendar reminder. Logan, spin class, 7 p.m. Logan, not a name I'd ever heard her mention before. And spin class? She hasn't set foot in a gym in years. She's the type to roll her eyes at fitness trends. When I asked her about it casually later, she waved it off and said, it's just a new thing I'm trying. Logan's the instructor. Okay, sure. I wanted to believe her. But then things started getting stranger. She'd come home late, claiming she went out with work friends or had an impromptu client meeting, except she never had any details, just vague excuses. When I'd pressed, she got defensive, snapping at me about being controlling or accusing me of not trusting her. The breaking point came a few days ago. Sophia told me she was heading to her spin class again, and something just didn't sit right. I decided to follow her. I know. It sounds bad, but I had this gnawing feeling in my gut, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. She drove to this bar about 20 minutes away, not a gym. I parked a bit down the street and watched her go inside. A few minutes later, a guy showed up. Tall, dark haired, kind of muscular. He had this cocky swagger about him. He kissed her on the cheek like they'd done it 100 times before. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. My heart was pounding, and I thought I might puke right there in the car. They didn't even try to be discreet. They sat in a booth by the window, laughing, leaning in close, and holding hands. I sat there for what I felt like forever, trying to convince myself that I was misinterpreting things. But then they left together, and I followed them to a cheap motel a few blocks away. She didn't even text me to say she'd be home late. I drove home in a daze. I haven't confronted her yet. I don't even know where to begin. Part of me wants to scream, but another part of me is too numb to feel anything. Is there any way to come back from this? Do I even want to try? I'm lost, guys. What do I do? So after seeing Sophia with that guy Logan, I've been trying to keep it together while figuring out my next steps. But pretending everything is normal while my wife is sneaking around behind my back? That's a whole new level of hell. The thing is, she's not even trying that hard to hide it anymore. Maybe she thinks I'm too clueless to notice, or maybe she just doesn't care. Either way, it's like she's throwing crumbs of her lies in my face, daring me to piece it all together. The other day, she got home late again, smelling like some fancy cologne that I definitely don't own. I asked her casually, how was spin class? She shot me this weird look, like I'd asked her to solve a calculus problem, and then said, Logan wasn't feeling well, so we just grabbed a coffee instead. Coffee? At 9 p.m.? Really? I wanted to call her out right then and there, but I didn't. I felt this strange mix of anger and curiosity, like I needed to be 100% sure before I went nuclear. So instead of confronting her, I decided to dig a little deeper. A couple of nights later, I overheard her talking on the phone. She was in the bedroom with the door cracked open, and I was in the kitchen trying to keep my hands from shaking as I listened. I couldn't hear everything, but the bits I did catch were enough to make my blood boil. She said things like, I miss you too, and no, Ethan doesn't suspect anything. My name. In her whispery, fake sweet tone, my stomach turned. It took everything in me not to burst into the room and demand answers, but I held back, thinking I needed more proof, more than just snippets of a conversation and my own suspicions. The next morning, I asked her about her plans for the weekend. She told me she was going shopping with her friend Jessica. I didn't say anything, but later I texted Jessica just to confirm. I said something casual like, hey, Sophia mentioned you two were hanging out Saturday. She didn't leave her wallet at your place last time, did she? Jessica's response, wait, what? I haven't seen Sophia in weeks. At that moment, I knew. There was no mistaking it anymore. She's lying, she's sneaking around, and she's treating me like an idiot in the process. I feel like I'm walking a tightrope here. Part of me just wants to explode and throw her lies back in her face, but another part of me wants to be methodical, to gather everything I need before I confront her. I'm planning to take some time to figure this out while keeping up the charade of normalcy at home. I don't know how long I can keep this up, though. Every time she smiles at me or kisses me goodbye, I feel like I'm suffocating. Last week, my job sent me on a 3-day business trip to Philly. Normally, I'd welcome the chance to get away, clear my head, and focus on work. But this time, leaving Sophia at home felt like handing her an all-access pass to do whatever or whoever she wanted. Still, I went. The first night at the hotel, I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing with all these what ifs. What if she wasn't actually at home? What if Logan was in our bed? I tried to distract myself by watching some mindless TV, but nothing worked. Then the strangest thing happened. The next morning, I went down to the hotel lobby to grab some coffee. As I'm waiting in line, I hear a familiar laugh. I froze. It was Sophia's laugh. That same unmistakable laugh I've heard a million times before. I turned around, and there she was. Sophia, standing in the lobby, smiling and chatting with him. Logan. It felt like the world stopped. My stomach dropped, my heart raced, and I swear I could hear my pulse in my ears. She wasn't supposed to be in Philly. She had told me she had some self-care weekend planned at home. Apparently, her version of self-care involved her boyfriend, and for some godforsaken reason, the same hotel where I was staying. They didn't see me at first. I ducked behind a potted plant like some amateur spy in a bad rom-com. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I wasn't ready to confront her, at least not yet. I watched them check in at the front desk. But she was wearing this little black dress I'd never seen before, and Logan had his hand on the small of her back like they'd done this 100 times. She was giggling at something he said, her head tilted toward him in that flirtatious way I used to love. They headed toward the elevators, and I just stood there, frozen. Part of me wanted to storm over, cause a scene, and demand answers, but the other part of me, maybe the smarter part, knew I needed to play it cool. If I exploded then and there, I'd lose any chance of getting the full picture. I went back to my room, pacing like a madman. I wanted to scream, punch something, do anything to let out the rage and betrayal I was feeling. Instead, I grabbed my laptop and started looking into how to track room charges. It turns out I could request a breakdown of any room service ordered during my stay. A long shot, but it might help. Now, I'm torn. Do I confront her here, away from home, where things could get messy in public? Or do I wait until we're back in New Jersey, where I can plan things out? I don't know what hurts more, seeing her with Logan or realizing she felt confident enough to lie to my face and think she'd get away with it. I'm stuck in this hotel, surrounded by strangers, and the only person I want to talk to is the one who's betrayed me. What would you do if you were in my shoes? I feel like I'm in a nightmare I can't wake up from. I don't even know how to begin this. The last 24 hours have been an absolute whirlwind. If you've been following my story, you know I'm stuck in a hotel in Philly on a business trip, and I just caught my wife Sophia here with her spin class buddy, Logan. Well, I didn't just see them from a distance this time. Things escalated. Big time. After seeing them in the lobby, I spent most of the day trying to stay calm. I had meetings, but honestly, I have no idea what was even discussed. My mind was somewhere else entirely. I kept picturing Sophia and Logan together, wondering if they were still in their room, if they were laughing at me, if I even meant anything to her anymore. That night, I decided I needed to know more. I couldn't just sit in my room pretending this wasn't happening. So I went down to the hotel bar, hoping I might accidentally run into them. And, well, I did. They were sitting at a corner table, tucked away but still in plain view. She was drinking a glass of red wine, her favorite, and Logan was leaning in, whispering something in her ear. She laughed that laugh, and I felt a mix of fury and heartbreak all over again. I don't know what came over me, but I walked straight over to them. I wasn't loud or angry, but I wasn't exactly subtle either. Sophia, I said, my voice steady despite the adrenaline pumping through me. Her face turned as pale as a sheet. She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Logan, on the other hand, looked confused at first, then annoyed, like I was ruining his night. Oh my God, Ethan, what are you doing here? She stammered, her voice high-pitched and panicky. What am I doing here? I repeated, my voice dripping with sarcasm. I'm on a business trip. The real question is, what are you doing here with him? Logan had the audacity to lean back in his chair and smirk. Look, man, I think there's been a misunderstanding. I cut him off before he could finish. Don't even start. I know exactly what's going on. Sophia tried to interject, but I wasn't having it. You've been lying to me for months, I said, my voice louder now but still controlled. Spin class, work meetings, self-care weekends. Do you think I'm an idiot? People were starting to stare, but I didn't care. Logan muttered something under his breath about not needing this drama, and then he had the nerve to stand up and walk away. Sophia just sat there, her mouth opening and closing like she couldn't decide what to say. Finally, she whispered, Ethan, can we talk about this in private? I laughed bitterly. Now you want privacy? After flaunting this in public, in the same hotel where you knew I was staying. She didn't have an answer for that. I told her I'd see her back in Jersey and walked out of the bar, leaving her sitting there alone. I didn't look back. Now I'm back in my room trying to process everything. I don't know what's going to happen when we're both home again, but one thing's for sure, this isn't over. Guys, I need your advice more than ever. Please, comment below that video. Should I even give her the chance to explain, or is it time to call the lawyer and end this for good? Because, damn, I love her. I'm exhausted, furious, and heartbroken all at once. I just want this nightmare to be over. Honestly, feel like I've stepped into some kind of soap opera I'd never signed up for. After confronting Sophia at the hotel bar, I thought I'd gotten the worst of it out of my system. But when I got back to Jersey, I realized I wasn't done. I needed to know everything. When we both got home, Sophia tried to act like nothing had happened. She didn't even bring up the hotel confrontation. It was surreal, like she was living in some alternate reality where she could just erase what I saw. Meanwhile, I was barely holding it together, pretending to be calm while rage and heartbreak churned inside me. That's when I decided to do something I never thought I'd have to do in my marriage. I started following her. It didn't take long to confirm my suspicions. A few days after we got back, she left the house claiming she was meeting Jessica for brunch. Funny how Jessica had no idea about these plans when I texted her again. I waited about 10 minutes, then hopped in my car and tailed Sophia. Termino si, frigiama di storie dei previous annos, agathraiste primeri. I parked a few spots down the street, heart pounding, and watched as she walked up to his door and let herself in. No knock, no hesitation, just straight inside, like she belonged there. I sat there for 2 hours, watching the door, wondering what they were doing, though deep down, I already knew. The next day, I did the same thing. She left the house in a rush, claiming she was going to run errands. I followed her again, and surprise, surprise, Logan's apartment. This time, I got out of the car and walked around the block to get a better view of his place. Through the blinds, I could see them sitting on the couch together, laughing with her head resting on his shoulder. I felt like my heart had been ripped out and stomped on. Seeing it in real time, not just suspecting it, but knowing. That hit differently. I took pictures. I didn't want to, but I needed to. I wanted irrefutable proof, something she couldn't worm her way out of with lies and excuses. Over the next few days, I started checking her phone when she wasn't looking. I know. It's not something I'm proud of, but at this point, I felt like I didn't have a choice. Sure enough, her messages with Logan were filled with flirting, inside jokes, and plans to meet up. She even had a few messages where she mocked me, saying things like, "Ethan's so clueless, it's almost sad." Reading that gutted me. But the worst part? She'd been talking about me with Logan for weeks, calling me boring, saying I didn't make her feel alive anymore. The same woman I've loved and supported for 6 years was tearing me down behind my back to some guy she met at a bar or spin class or whatever the hell they met. I'm at a crossroads now. I've got the proof, but I don't know how or when to confront her. Should I wait for the perfect moment, or should I just call her out and end this charade? Part of me wants to make her squirm, to feel the same pain and betrayal she's put me through. But another part of me just wants this nightmare to end so I can move on with my life. How would you handle this? I feel like I'm about to explode. After days of watching Sophia's lies unravel, I decided it was time to solidify my proof. If I was going to confront her, I wanted to make sure there was no way she could gaslight me or weasel out of the situation. So yesterday morning, I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I installed a GPS tracker in her car. I hate that it's come to this, but after everything I've seen, I need to be prepared for whatever lies she's going to throw at me. Sure enough, within hours, she left the house again. This time, she didn't even bother with a story, just grabbed her purse and said, I've got stuff to do. Right. Stuff like Logan. The tracker pinged her location, and guess where it was? Logan's apartment. Again, I drove over, parked a couple of blocks away, and waited. This time, though, I wanted to take it a step further. I needed more than just photos of them walking into his place or cuddling on the couch. I sat in my car for what felt like forever before deciding to go full James Bond. I grabbed my phone and walked around the back of Logan's apartment complex, where there's this little alley with fire escapes. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I felt like I had to see it for myself. And then I got lucky. Or unlucky, depending on how you look at it. Logan's blinds weren't fully closed, and from where I was standing, I could see straight into his living room. Sophia was there, sitting on his lap, her arms wrapped around his neck. They were kissing like two teenagers at prom, completely oblivious to the world outside. My stomach turned, and for a second, I thought I might actually throw up. But I didn't. I held it together and snapped a few pictures, my hands shaking the entire time. As I stood there, my phone buzzed. It was Sophia. She'd texted me. Running late, be home in a couple of hours. Love you. The audacity. She was literally sitting in another man's lap while texting me like everything was fine. I couldn't watch anymore. I walked back to my car, my mind racing. I knew I had enough proof now. Between the texts I found, the photos, and her repeated trips to Logan's place, there was no way she could deny it. The question now is, how do I use it? I don't just want to confront her. I want her to feel the weight of what she's done. I've already started planning my next move, but I could really use some advice on how to execute it. Should I just lay it all out at home, or should I make it public, where she can't hide or spin her lies? Part of me wants to confront Logan too, but I don't know if that's even worth it. I've got the truth in my hands now, but I'm still not sure what to do with it. Guys, how do I make sure this confrontation hits her the way it needs to? How do I protect myself while finally ending this nightmare? I've decided it's time to confront Sophie and Logan, but not in a typical let's talk kind of way. No, this betrayal deserves something a bit more memorable. Here's the plan. I decided to set a trap, a dinner. I created a fake email address and sent Logan an invitation under the guise of being a colleague of Sophia's. The email was simple but professional, inviting him to a business networking dinner to celebrate an important project Sophia had supposedly worked on. I chose a nice restaurant in town that's formal enough to ensure they'd show up dressed for the occasion. Of course, Sophia had no clue this was happening. I made sure to stay calm and act normal around her, even when she mentioned she was busy on the same night I'd planned the dinner. She probably thought she'd get away with slipping out to meet Logan, as usual. When Logan replied to the email, saying he'd attend and that he'd let Sophia know, I knew I had them both. The pieces were falling into place. The night of the dinner came, I reserved a table for 3 under my name. I showed up early, dressed in a suit, and made sure the staff knew to seat my guests right across from me. My heart was racing as I sat there, nursing a glass of water and trying to keep my hands from shaking. About 20 minutes later, they arrived. Sophia was dressed to the nines, wearing this red dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. Logan looked smug as hell, like he was some kind of hero swooping in to steal the girl. They didn't notice me at first. The hostess walked them to the table, and as they sat down, their faces went from confusion to shock as they realized who their dinner companion was. Surprise! I said, smiling like I wasn't about to explode. Sophia's jaw dropped. Ethan? What the hell is this? Dinner, I said, keeping my tone cool. I thought it'd be nice for all of us to sit down and catch up. You know, since you've been spending so much time together. Logan tried to play it off, stammering something about a mix-up, but I shut him down. Save it. I know everything. I've got the texts, the photos, even the GPS data from your little trips to Logan's apartment. So why don't you both cut the crap and explain yourselves? The restaurant was dead silent. People at nearby tables were pretending not to listen, but you could feel the tension in the air. Sophia started babbling, something about how it wasn't what it looked like and how she never meant to hurt me. Logan just sat there, looking like he wanted to sink into the floor. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I just laid out the evidence. Everything I'd seen, heard, and recorded. With every piece I revealed, Sophia's excuses got weaker and weaker. Finally, I stood up, looked directly at Logan, and said, "You can have her. She's all yours." For the first time in months, I wasn't weighed down by life. I remembered it later. Sophia said, "Then I turned to Sophia and told her what I read in the paper. Then I turned to Sophia and added, 'I'll be filing for divorce first thing in the morning. Don't bother coming home tonight.' And with that, I walked out of the restaurant, leaving them both sitting there stunned and speechless. I'll be honest, I felt a mix of emotions as I drove away. Relief, anger, sadness. But most of all, I felt free. For the first time in months, I wasn't weighed down by my life. I've already contacted a lawyer and started the paperwork. There's no coming back from this, and honestly, I don't want to. Thanks for sticking with me. This isn't the ending I wanted, but it's the one I needed. If you're ever in a situation like this, remember, trust your gut, and don't let anyone make you feel crazy for seeking the truth." You'd think walking out of that restaurant would have been the end of the story, right? Nope. Because, of course, nothing about this mess is simple. After I left, Sophia must have scrambled to get home because when I got back, her car was already in the driveway. I wasn't expecting her there. I figured she'd stay with Logan or maybe a friend. Instead, she was sitting on the couch, looking like a mix of pissed off and desperate. As soon as I walked in, she stood up and started yelling. "How could you do that to me? Humiliate me in public like that?" I laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "You're worried about humiliation? What about the months you've spent lying, sneaking around and cheating on me? You think I'm the problem here?" She folded her arms, her voice taking on that smug, bitchy tone she gets when she thinks she's winning an argument. "Ethan, you don't understand. Logan and I, it's complicated. It's not what you think." "Oh, so you weren't sleeping with him?" I shot back, my voice ice cold. That shut her up for a second. But then she started spinning more lies, talking about how she'd felt unappreciated and lonely in our marriage. She even tried to blame me, saying I wasn't attentive enough, like her affair was my fault. I let her talk, watching her dig herself deeper and deeper into her web of excuses. When she finally ran out of things to say, I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos, the texts, everything. "You think I didn't notice? You think I'm stupid?" I said, my voice rising for the first time. "You didn't just cheat on me. You mocked me. You lied to my face and treated me like an idiot. And now you want to blame me? Screw that." She broke down crying, but it didn't feel real. It felt performative, like she thought tears would magically erase everything. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she sobbed. "I still love you, Ethan. Please, we can fix this." I just shook my head. "No, Sophia, you broke this, and there's no fixing it." Then came the bombshell I wasn't expecting. "Ethan," she said, her voice trembling, "I need to tell you something. Logan's not the only one." That hit me like a truck. I just stared at her, trying to process what she just said. "What?" She looked down at her hands, avoiding my eyes. "There were others, a few, but they didn't mean anything. I swear, it was just, I don't know. I wasn't thinking." My whole body felt numb. I'd been prepared for Logan. I'd been prepared for lies. But multiple affairs? That was a level of betrayal I hadn't even considered. "I'm done," I said finally, my voice flat and hollow. "I don't care about your excuses or your tears. I'm filing for divorce and I want you out of this house by the end of the week." She started pleading again, saying she had nowhere to go, that she'd change, that she was sorry. But I was done listening. I went upstairs, locked the bedroom door, and ignored her begging and crying until she finally gave up. Today I talked to my lawyer, and the divorce is officially in motion. Blank! I've also changed the locks and started packing up her things. She can figure out her own living situation, she made her choices, and now she can deal with the consequences. It's been one of the hardest weeks of my life, but I'm starting to feel like I can breathe again. The tension is unbearable, but at least the end is in sight. It's done, everything is out in the open now, and I finally severed the last few threads that were tying me to Sophia. This part of my life is over, and let me tell you, it ended with a bang. After her little confession about others, I realized I wasn't just dealing with a cheating spouse. I was dealing with someone who had zero respect for me or our marriage. So I decided it was time for her lies to catch up with her. If she wanted to destroy what we built, I wasn't going to let her quietly sweep the mess under the rug. Here's what happened. I sent out a group text to some of our closest friends and family. I didn't give all the dirty details, I'm not that cruel, but I laid out the basics. Something like, "Hi everyone, just wanted to let you know that Sophia and I are divorcing. She's been unfaithful to me with multiple people, and after much thought, I've decided this is the best path forward. I appreciate your understanding as I navigate this difficult time." The fallout was instant. Within minutes, my phone was blowing up with messages of support from my friends, and apparently Sophia's phone was blowing up too, just with very different messages. I heard from mutual friends that she tried to spin it, claiming I was exaggerating or misunderstanding the situation, but no one was buying it. The real kicker, her parents called me. They've always liked me, probably more than they like Sophia, honestly. And they were furious. Apparently, Sophia hadn't told them anything about what was going on. When I calmly explained the situation, her mom actually started crying and apologized to me. I told her it wasn't her fault, but the whole thing was surreal. As for Logan, he's a piece of work too. I didn't bother reaching out to him directly, he's not worth my time, but word got around to his workplace, and I heard through the grapevine that he's been avoiding the office like the plague. I guess having your affair exposed to the world isn't great for your career. Who knew? But the moment that really sealed it for me came last night. Sophia tried one last time to fix things. She showed up at the house, she's still staying with a friend, thank God, and begged me to reconsider. She went through the whole script: tears, apologies, promises to change, the works. When I told her it was too late, she got angry. "You're ruining my life," she shouted, as if I was the one who cheated. That's when I finally lost it. "I'm ruining your life? Are you serious, Sophia? You threw away our marriage for some cheap thrills and lies. You've got no one to blame but yourself." She stormed out after that, slamming the door so hard it shook the walls. Today I feel free. Not happy exactly. I don't think I'll feel happy for a while, but free. Like I finally reclaimed control over my life. The divorce paperwork is in motion, and I'm already looking for a new place to live. I don't want to stay in this house full of memories anymore. It's time for a fresh start. You'd think this story would have ended with Sophia storming out and the divorce paperwork underway, but of course, life isn't that simple. There's always one last twist, right? After Sophia's dramatic exit the other night, I thought I was done dealing with her nonsense. But earlier today, she showed up at my work. Yes, my work. I was sitting in my office trying to focus on something, anything, other than this disaster, when my coworker buzzed me. "Hey, Ethan, there's a woman in the lobby asking for you. Says her name is Sophia." I felt the blood drain from my face. What was she doing here? I told my coworker to let her know I was busy, but apparently she wasn't taking no for an answer. Next thing I know, she's barging into my office, her face a mix of anger and desperation. "We need to talk," she said, slamming the door behind her. I stayed seated, trying to keep my cool. "I don't think there's anything left to talk about, Sophia. You've made your choices and I've made mine." But she wasn't here to apologize, or at least not really. She launched into this bizarre tirade about how I'd ruined her reputation by telling people about her affairs. "Everyone's treating me like I'm some kind of monster, Ethan. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is?" I leaned back in my chair, folding my arms. "Humiliating? You think this is humiliating for you? Imagine how I've felt these past few months, knowing the woman I loved was lying to my face while sleeping with other people." She didn't have a response to that, of course. Instead, she pivoted, trying to guilt trip me. "I made mistakes, Ethan, but do you really think you're perfect? You've ignored me for years, always putting work or other things ahead of me." That hit a nerve, but I wasn't about to let her turn this around on me. I may not have been perfect, but I didn't cheat. I didn't lie. I didn't destroy our marriage. That's all on you. Her desperation turned to anger. "You're so self-righteous. Do you think anyone's going to want you after this? Do you think you're some kind of hero for dragging my name through the mud?" I stood up then, my voice firm. "I didn't drag your name through the mud, Sophia. You did that all on your own. Now, unless you want security to escort you out, I suggest you leave. We're done." She glared at me, tears forming in her eyes. "But She didn't say another word. She turned on her heel and stormed out of my office. I sat back down, shaking with adrenaline. My coworkers were buzzing with curiosity and had to be rebusted, and I prayed that word spreads fast in an office. But I kept my head down and focused on work for the rest of the day. When I got home, I changed the locks again just to be safe. She's clearly not above showing up uninvited, and I'm not taking any chances.
Mm.
I'm exhausted, guys. I don't know what she thought she'd accomplish by coming to my workplace, but all she did was reinforce my decision to leave her in the past. The confrontation's done, and now I can focus on the future. Whatever that looks like, at least I know it'll be a future free of lies and betrayal. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Tell me what you think about that story. Have a good day, and bye.